Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the stream and happy Tuesday. It has been the craziest few days, and I apologize the stream was not right on time around 3 p.m. Eastern this afternoon. After being sick yesterday with a yucky fever and not feeling my best, so resting it out, I was totally prepared to be on time for the stream today, and then Xfinity decided, let's just shut out all of the internet in South Florida and make it impossible for people to go live when they are supposed to go live. So it's not my fault, okay? You guys can be angry at me for being late, but I literally had no internet today, okay? So I hope a late stream is a-okay with you guys. Boy, do we have a treat for you on this Tuesday afternoon with a very, very special guest. We've been going back and forth about having this person on the stream for several weeks now and was highly requested by many of you to talk about all things womanhood, how modern feminism is lying to women, the impact that she's made in the media world, and so much more. And I promise we're going to get to her in just a second. But please, because this is such a special guest, do me a huge favor as we're kicking off the stream today and hit that like and or subscribe button wherever you guys are watching. We are live every day, Monday through Friday, except when we're on our deathbed or the internet is not working, at 3 p.m. Eastern across platforms, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, Getter, Locals, and Instagram. Thinking about rolling some things out for TikTok as well. Let me know if you guys would like us to be streaming regularly on TikTok, and we'll work on that for you guys. So like, subscribe, do whatever you need to do to make sure that you're helping to grow this channel and get as many people into this conversation as possible. We are so grateful for you guys and continuing to expand the conversations that we get to have every day and the very special guests that we're able to have on the stream. Okay, to preface this amazing guest that I'm so excited to have on the stream today, I have noticed this person really making an impact in the world of media for a long time, long before I ever got involved in being a content creator or having a live stream or talking about the news or any of the above. This is somebody who has long been a public figure in supporting real women's empowerment and what feminism is actually supposed to be, with women being uniquely created to have an incredible societal impact. I remember watching this person in the sport that she loves many times growing up, and it is a true honor to have her on the show today. She's been under a lot of criticism and controversy recently because of a move that she's making in the media world and also getting more involved with the right of center conservative political movement happening in America. She was in Phoenix, Arizona with me a few months ago at Turning Point USA's America Fest, recently appeared on the Tucker Carlson network with a really cool interview that I highly suggest that you go check out, and has been making the rounds in the podcast circle around the conservative movement. But I am just so honored to have her here today. Please join me in welcoming the one, the only, the inspiring, the beautiful Danica Patrick to the stream. Danica, I am so excited to finally have you on the stream. I know we've been talking back and forth for a couple of months now and have just loved watching your transformative journey in sharing some really exciting content on social media. So for those that might not be totally caught up with all of this, can you just give us a brief update into the life of Danica Patrick over the last couple of months and why start being so outspoken about these cultural issues?
Sure. Thank you. It's so nice to talk to you. And I know this is a bit formal, but I have no doubt we will get to be friends in real life, off camera and in person. So I love what you're doing. So first off, that. And really, I mean, that kind of leads into kind of the area that I've started to get interested in. And I guess the right way to describe it is feel called to. I've never been interested in politics. I don't understand it. I was that kid in school that failed the Constitution test, and I was a great student. I'm like an AB student, but that just did not compute. So I never was into it. And also being an athlete, I just didn't really feel like it was my place. I feel like as an athlete, it's always stay away from religion, stay away from politics.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of was never a realm that I dabbled in. And, well, it was last fall I interviewed RFK, Bobby Kennedy, and in Las Vegas at the F1 race, which was great. And then I went to AmFest in Phoenix, Arizona. I live in Scottsdale, which is put on by Charlie Kirk and Turning Point. And my sister flew out from Indiana for it. And like we come from a family that's conservative and, you know, very much backs Republican throughout all of time, pretty much. Although my parents were a little interested in Ross Perot back in the day. I remember that. So, so we've always been sort of much more conservative Republican. And so it was like a good place to be. It's like, if you love America, there's red, white, and blue everywhere. And it was just like a really great event. I mean, there was everything from psychology to you know, politics to the border to, you know, you name it, a lot of topics were being hit, and it was really cool. So I posted about it, and people just seemed to think I was some radical, crazy MAGA person. And I was like, wow. And all I really said was that I love America. And I found it really sad and shocking that that could be so polarizing.
And you've received quite a bit of backlash for it in the last several months on social media, largely for talking about standing up for actual women's rights, which I find phenomenally interesting, that you've been this actually feminist figure for people for a long time in terms of being a strong woman in athletics in a largely male-dominated field. And yet the moment you say women are women and men are men, and that's okay, and we have different characteristics of femininity versus masculinity, all of a sudden people think you're this radical, horrible, insane white supremacist organizer. So what has that been like, getting some of this backlash? And are you surprised, given the impact that you've been able to make for several generations of young women already?
Yeah, for sure. Surprised. I mean, just doesn't seem like these beliefs, whether it's like there are two genders or I love America, should be really not clear to people. And we just live in a weird time where, you know, any kind of real conservative belief system is, you can't even talk about it. Like, you just can't be proud of those things anymore. You can only be proud if you believe in more progressive, alternative ways of living or believing in things. And I definitely do crack up when you see the little clips that, you know, come out where people are like, how many genders are there? And they'll be like, 2. And the next person goes, how many genders are there? And they go, well, there are quite a few. It's like, I mean, I just, we just live in a really weird time. I don't know. What do you think about, like, why is it that people that have a conservative, or I would just think rational perspective on things, are all being canceled or quieted? Why do you think that is?
Oh my gosh, if we each had an answer to that, it would solve all of the world's problems, I think, right now. But, you know, I like what you just said. You worded it in a unique way, that it's not even conservative. It's not even really political at the end of the day. I love politics, and I've spent many years working in politics, but 99% of what I post about on social media every day is culture. It's dating, it's your faith, it's how we approach freedom of expression in society, and even crazy, weird TikTok trends like you were just talking about with these students in school. And I just find it fascinating. We've lost the ability to think critically about anything. And as a scientist and educational background myself, I really have found that this stems from a lack of objective truth in society. It really has nothing to do with what party you support or what candidate you happen to think is the best option for president of the United States. But we've just lost the ability to admit this is reality and this is truth, and that's not, because everything has to be subjective now.
And isn't it interesting too? I think when one of the things that this is like my one thing, I feel like if I could like expose or change in politics, it would be partisan politics. It just feels like division is such a source of pain for people, and anger and fear, and the ability to sort of, and not to critical think, because when you just pick one, it's like, you know, you just all of a sudden fall under that belief system, and you kind of don't even know, if you know what it is, sometimes you don't even know why. Yeah. Like, I remember, you know, even so a long, long time ago, I became Catholic. I'm not a practicing religious person. I would consider myself far more inclusive and spiritual. But once upon a time I did, and it was like around the age of my early 20s. And I remember one of the things is obviously like Lent and no meat on Fridays. And I'm just such a skeptic in general and questioner. Like, that's how I understand people, and how I generate empathy is through understanding things. And so when I at least figure out what I thought was the answer. I could be wrong, but it was a long time ago. But it was just that meat was a luxury, and so you abstain from a luxury. I'm like, well, that's the point. That's the point, right? Like, we don't even understand where these things that we do come from. And when you understand why, then you give it meaning. And then it's so much deeper than just following a color and choosing that as your belief system. If you know what to do, then you don't know why. And I just think that that's not an embodied existence. There's not a lot of integrity with that. It's just, and you can't have much rational thought either, because you don't even understand it.
No, you don't. And there's no depth of curiosity even, which has been so eye-opening to me over the last several months and years. I look at the major political issues of our time, and no longer are they about how much we pay in taxes, although maybe it should be, because that sucks and we're all breathing in a bag getting closer to April. It's not even about political parties or what candidate said what on national TV. We're talking about stuff like real food or synthetic food, or your ability to go to church on Sunday or not go to church. Like, it's just the most basic realities of our existence. And we can't agree on anything, because down to the brand of toothbrush that you used this morning or the pair of underwear that you bought, look at Calvin Klein, you're making an overt partisan political statement in every decision that you make today. So I think that's why it's been so inspiring and cool for people to see someone like you, who's had a public persona and a large platform in culture for so long, be unafraid to at least ask these questions and embrace that deeper curiosity. Are you noticing other athletes or other people in the public eye starting to do exactly the same thing?
Yeah. I mean, I think people are, what I feel has happened, and I guess I'm using myself as an example, because I would call myself someone that was just kind of like living my own life. And I have grappled over the idea of whether or not you actually have to fight to make things right in the way that at least you believe they're right, or if you just live your life by an example. And if you fight, are you perpetuating the system to stay in place, because essentially you're giving it energy? And I've really wondered about that. And, but I think that what's happened is that it's, for me, the very specific issue is like, you start messing with the sky and you start messing with the air I breathe and the food that I eat and EMFs and all the different things and frequencies. I can't get away from you now. Like, I can get away from someone that doesn't live their life in a way that I would agree with, or, doesn't treat people the way that I would treat people. I can kind of run away from that, right? Or like a way of living, but you can't run away from the air you breathe and the food you eat when it's done on such a level that it is. And so that's the kind of thing that really started to make me mad. Was I'm like such a solar powered person. So I look up and I see all those terrible chemtrails in the sky and then the clouds that follow. And I'm like, I need sunshine. And so those are kind of like my practical things that are frustrating for me. And I think that one of the other things that's happened in the last year is that, I think we saw it with the vaccine, maybe the most, where, it's one thing to come after adults, because you can kind of have your own rationalization. You can, I think as adults, we tend to deprioritize a lot of ourselves anyway, whether in a relationship or with family or children, or, we can go, okay, whatever. But then when you come after the kids, I think that's what really pisses people off. So whether it was the vaccine or whether it's what they're being taught in school, I think that's where you really fire people up that don't necessarily want to deal with it all and are just living their lives. But they're like, look, now I can't even go about my general life without feeling like I'm without being pissed off.
Yeah. And it should piss you off, especially if it's involving your own kids. And I love seeing parents wake up to this, especially with what's happening in their child's classroom or what they're seeing online. But I even think it's larger at the societal level in the 30,000 foot conversation too. You've done a lot of work with launching initiatives to help women of the next generation. You recently launched a new women's network at Missouri State University, if I remember correctly. What do you think is being told that is so based in lies and propaganda and this indoctrination from these radical individuals to young women in particular that's such a problem in culture?
Specifically, are you saying that what is it about women? Because I have quite a few opinions about women, obviously being a girl race car driver and all the things, like, and they're not all traditional.
Yeah.
So explain a little bit more.
I guess, do you think that there is some concerted effort culturally, be that in the educational system or entertainment industry or anything else culturally in America, to try to erase womanhood right now and get women to shut up about our innate womanness, femininity, beauty?
I mean, the one I think of the most is just, the idea that there's some population control going on. It's something that you hear here and there. It's, definitely I don't know if it's a conspiracy theory or not. In fact, I'd like to let that word, that title die. Like, it's like, it like makes everything seem not possible, true. Or, it just, I don't like it. So maybe I'll just say there's an idea that there is a population control thing going on. And it makes me really look at things like women are essentially going to be what reproduces the planet. And then also you need a man to do that too. So I feel like testosterone levels are getting lower through everything, BPAs, the things that we eat, environment, I think even just, the negativity and the fear that goes on, all those things attack the immune system and deplete yourself. And so we're just living in a culture where men's testosterone is as low as ever, and women are, now, there's obviously a suspicion that the vaccine was affecting a female's ability to reproduce. And so I wonder how much of this sort of no man, girl, boy is just part of that idea that might be out there. But also I think, there's a lot of times where there's just like so many big swings that happen with new ideas. And it's like, I mean, you get the women's movement where you are in the workforce and you make money, and I'm like one of them, right? Like I'm a very successful woman. I don't necessarily need a man for the old, classic things in life.
Yeah.
But there's just going too far to like not being a woman. And so there's like the pendulum just swung so far that it's like, you don't even, we don't even know what gender is anymore. And so the way it needs to settle is that we both need to start respecting each other. Like men and women need to honor what's different about each other, because there are definitely differences. And then you honor them. And like if two people came together, like fully honoring those differences, you become a superhuman. You get to tap into both potentials of both genders to make a superhuman. And I think that I think there's a lot of spiritual, psychological warfare going on, and I definitely get into the spiritual realms, and I think that might be part of it too.
Absolutely. And I love what you just said about conspiracy theories being ideas, right? Rather than conspiracies. I was reading a couple of recent articles about some backlash you've gotten for being involved in F1 and how a lot of people think you might not be qualified to do that. I want to jump into that in a second. But the New York Post categorized you as this like crazy conspiracy theorist. And they said you've come under fire for platforming conspiracy theories about aliens secretly living among us and UFOs being kept from the public in an article about race car driving, right? Which is just crazy that they have to do this. Do you think there's this concerted effort from the media to stop even getting people to ask questions right now? And what words of encouragement do you have for people to think bigger than that for themselves?
Yeah, I just interviewed Callie Means yesterday, and was it Callie Means or was it Rick Doblin? I think it was Callie just yesterday had mentioned that maybe it was Eisenhower or someone, a very past president that was on, it was like just before they outlawed psychedelics, because there was a quote, something about it's getting people to think for themselves too much. Like that's on quote somewhere. So I'm getting the details wrong because I can't remember all the words in everything said in the interview, but I'm getting the gist of it, which is just that, look, if somebody wants to be in control, you need to be the only one thinking for people. If you want control, you need to be the only one thinking. And when you open up opportunity for people to think, whether it's through talking to each other, understanding each other, liking each other, or thinking bigger, thinking more, like expanding your mind through, experiences of traveling the world maybe and realizing that other countries are beautiful and safe, or whether it's through psychedelics, if that's your choice. Like these are all things that are going to get people to think for themselves and like each other more and have stronger opinions and a better sense of self-worth and who you are. And you can't mess with that as much. You can't manipulate that as much. And I think I think it's like a mental mind game for them to keep you in fear, to keep you divided, and to not think for yourself.
Oh, could not have said that better myself. The good news is you aren't going anywhere, even if people want to try to discredit you for asking
I don't care
questions.
what people think about me. That's the truth. I really, thank God for my career to cultivate this sort of level of I don't care. And I think there's already some in me, but being, having been in racing for, 3 decades and, which just totally makes me unqualified to talk about Formula One cars, to be around racing for that long and as a female to be judged for that long, it's given me a pretty good backbone.
Let's talk about Formula One for a second. There's a lot of buzz about what's going on with your next step in your media career. Can you share a little bit about what that's going to look like?
Well, I've recently, since my career ended, I did some race broadcasting, and it started with just the Indy 500. And then a couple of years ago, I did one F1 race. And then the next year I did a few. And then last year I did 7, and I'm doing 7 more this year. And then this year as well, Drive to Survive had me join their program as well. So yeah, it's interesting because it's the one that I didn't do. Did IndyCar, did NASCAR, but I didn't do Formula One. And but that's the one where it's like they've taken me in the most. And but it by no means doesn't qualify me to talk about it. Do I know the level of detail of that someone's actually done it? Of course not. But does it qualify me? Of course. Like, it'd be like saying that someone that played in the NBA can't go talk about the WNBA because it's like, well, you didn't do it, you didn't do that one. Or someone that played college football couldn't go talk about the NFL.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, of course you can, right? Like that you understand the sport very, very well. And so, but hey, look, I mean, I don't think it's ever such a good look to defend yourself. I'm just saying, look, I have the credibility to speak about racing because it's been my life. So, but it's actually not the worst thing in the world when people are hating on you. It shows that everyone's got an opinion then. If it was all just like, if I was just all kittens and rainbows and all positive stuff all the time, then, that ends up, I think, just dissipating into nothing because it means that you're not unique enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think can be directly translated, some of this backlash that you're getting, to the other cultural commentary that you're doing too. So many people I've come across in the last few years since doing this in content creation feel like they're unworthy of talking about some of these cultural issues we're dealing with because they've never commentated on it before. They haven't hosted a cable news show or gone to a PhD program about food or health or environment or any of the things that we talk about. But it's something that everybody lives with every day. So to some aspect, we're all experts in what this looks like, at least in our own lives. We just need the courage to get up and talk about it. Do you have any encouragement for somebody who might be looking to take that next step, to be unafraid, to share their values and to bring truth back into the public square again?
Well, we're all experts in being humans and living our life. And essentially that's the topics that we're talking about, is things that are affecting our life. So we're all qualified to have an opinion about that. I think that, I spoke to a woman in Bobby Kennedy's camp a couple months ago, and she was talking about just why people, well, truth be told, she was trying to talk me into Congress, and I was like, what? Like, I don't think you understand. I don't think the Constitution test, it didn't go good for me.
Nor would you want to be in Congress, Danica. That would be terrible.
And that's exactly what was said after, is that just because you don't want to do it makes you the one that should do it. And but I just loved the framing of, like, originally how people like stepped into a position of power, Congress, or running your school board, or whatever the thing is that is your thing that you want to take a bigger step up into, is that, it was originally led by people that were just in the community and speaking for the community. There was no career PTO person. There's no career politician back in the day. It was just people that spoke up for their communities to represent their communities, and to fight for the issues that make a difference within them. And I loved that. I thought that was a really like lovely framing. It softened it up so much, and also to me kind of also showed the other side of it, which is, you know, those ones that are career politicians and the ones that, you know, and if that is the case and you have your goal in mind of where you want to end up, you know, then, you know, you do what it takes to get there. And I think sometimes that's where, you know, people can lose their way. Obviously not everyone does, but you can lose your way because you need money to campaign. You need people on your side. If you want to climb the ranks, you might have to compromise integrity here and there, or you might have to sideline some of your sort of policies or beliefs that you have, and, you know, advocate for a different one because, you know, they were your biggest donor. You know, I think that the most important thing is that you know who you are. And once you know who you are and you embody that, and that's just the difference between like, I want to be a good person and like feeling what it feels like to be a good person and what that is for you, then, you know, you're going to be more easily manipulated. And, and so, and that's not an easy thing. That is not an easy thing whatsoever. I'm always going to find out more about who I am as life goes on, because my goal is growth. But I would say that it took into my mid to late 30s before I really like felt like I knew who I was. And so, you know, everybody's on their own timeline too. Some people figure it out a little earlier and some people do later or never.
That's so encouraging to hear as a 26, almost 27-year-old. And most of my audience is early 20s and even college students and teenagers. When you're addressing groups of people that are still trying to figure out who they are, but also who everybody else is in this incredibly upside down, messed up world where we don't have objective truth, how can we continue to parse through all of the noise to seek it for ourselves the exact same way that you're doing on your ideological journey right now?
Thanks. Perfect question. Because I was just thinking, people might be wondering, how do I figure that out, right? How do I know who I am? And I've found the most powerful way to do it is by being alone. And look at the kind of landscape that we live in now. You never have to be alone. You don't have to, you have your phone, you have your computer, you have people, you're just more connected but disconnected than ever. And so the more that you can spend time by yourself to understand, like, you know, when you have 3 days off and you're all by yourself, you can lay around a bit and you can kind of hang out, but eventually you're going to be like, I need something to do. And you're going to figure out what kind of hobbies you like. You're going to figure out what kind of rhythm you have in life. You're going to figure out what's important to you. You're going to even understand your like eating habits or drinking habits or whatever those things are. When you're alone, you go, oh, this is actually how I would do it. And I just think it's harder than ever to have that, but I do think that that's the best way to figure it out.
Oh, great advice, Danica. And we have loved having you on the stream today. I know you have a quick out because you have a very busy day, but before you go, can you tell everybody where they can continue following you, all of your new racing journey, and the new commentary that you've been working on the last couple of months?
Thank you. This is fun, really fun. So Danica Patrick on Instagram. That's the one that I handle. We have a Facebook. We have all the platforms that went down today, right? We have, I'm on Twitter, but you know, I have a website. But I think that, you know, my Instagram is where I end up. That's the one that I use personally. And so anything coming up or anything that I'm doing, you can find there. I also make wine. So I make in Napa Valley as well as a French rosé. And I vacation. Let's not leave that out. That's an important thing for my soul.
It's important for everybody. May I join you on a vacation with a glass of wine soon? And we'll have to catch up off screen and have you back on the stream very, very soon. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. I'll see you on the Amalfi Coast.
I love it. Sounds like a plan. I am so unbelievably grateful for Danica and the special voice that she's been given to inspire so many people in the sports world, in the media world, and everywhere in between in her everyday life. If you guys aren't already following all of Danica's platforms on social media, please make sure to do so. She has an amazing podcast that I highly recommend you check out, and it's a really hard and courageous thing to be somebody already in the public eye with an adoring fan base and then all of a sudden have to defend your values courageously when people start attacking you for it. So whether that's Danica or anybody else that you guys are seeing out there, try to give some of these people as much support and love as you possibly can. It is so easy to be thrown to the wolves in the world of cancel culture that we often live in today and have people discredit all of the incredible impact that you've had with your ministry, your job, your impact, your philanthropy, your career by the stroke of one tweet or one push button on a social media app trying to say that you're now this evil, deranged, horrible, bigoted person, when in reality, the truth is exactly the opposite of that. Obviously, we know Danica is not backing down, but whenever you see people continue to stand up for objective truth, to bring goodness and beauty and morality back into our broken world and to use their platforms to communicate the good in our broken society, do whatever you can to support these people. You know, I think we often forget creators and celebrities and all of these people with a platform at the end of the day are just people, right? We're just like you. We eat breakfast in the morning and eat dinner at night. We cry when things get really tough. We get really stressed, and it's hard to get that level of backlash all the time. But whether you're a former NASCAR driver and a mega celebrity or a content creator or just somebody watching this stream today, I really want to encourage you today to know that backlash and that hatred and being societally outcast from pop culture is exactly the green flags, the warning signs, for lack of a better term, that we should be walking towards every single day. I think before we jump into this very intense political culture war, sometimes it's helpful to just back up and acknowledge who we are, what our identity is, and what we're doing here. I can't answer that question for you, but I can answer that question for me, that really none of this matters. If all of this went away tomorrow, if I got banned on every social media platform under the sun, if the internet just permanently went out forever with an EMP attack, if we didn't have social media at all anymore because our society moved on to bigger and better things, I still know what I'm doing every day, and that's to get up and tell the truth to a world that's rejecting the very concept of objective truth. And far before I am a conservative, I am a Christian, and my entire identity is wrapped up in being a child of God. As a follower, not just a fan, but a follower of Christ, I and all of us are commissioned to go and make disciples of all nations and to introduce the world to the truth with a capital T, the way and the life, and that is Jesus Christ and his teachings and our relationship with God. And interestingly, I think the American church has just lost our way for so long by trying to tell people it's going to feel really good all the time to be a Christian and to spread the gospel. You're going to always have this big community rallying behind you. You're always going to have a seat in the front row of your pew of church on Sunday morning, and it's always going to be this happy-go-lucky, wonderful experience. But it was Christ himself who promises us over and over and over again throughout the Gospels that we will not receive the adoration and praise and acceptance and love of this world by following him. In fact, quite the opposite. He re-insists over and over again that if you tell the truth, if you follow the truth, which is what I believe, in a world rejecting that concept, you will be hated by this world. You'll be outcast from it. You will be persecuted, but you will be blessed when you are persecuted and hated and when people utter all kinds of evil, vile things against you because you are rooted in truth. And you don't have to be religious to see that that type of persecution is exactly what's going on in modern America today. Even if you're not a Christian, if you don't believe that you're following Jesus Christ or following truth in that sense, I think it's obvious to all of us that if you're saying anything that's rooted in objective truth today, down to 2 + 2 = 4, all the way up to men cannot become women and women cannot become men, there is an immediate, instantaneous backlash and outcry from our modern culture calling you this hateful, white supremacist, bigoted, evil person for doing so. They want nothing more than to stay on top, to silence you, to put you down, to tell you to sit down and shut up while they continue to pervert what objective truth is to this wishy-washy, subjective, completely unrecognizable sense of morality in society where there is no difference between right and wrong and there is no difference between truth and lies. Whether you have a huge platform or you don't back down. Don't sit down. Don't shut up. Let's make truth trendy again. and be countercultural and punk rock and reclaiming goodness and beauty and truth in society by rebelling against the insanity of the upside down that we live in today, and try to embrace traditionalism and traditional values in a fun, spunky, new age way. Thank you, Danica, for doing just that with your platform in these last several months. We are so inspired by the work that you are doing, and I hope every single one of you follows the call to pick up the torch and do exactly the same thing in your own spheres of influence and in your own life. Guys, what a fun stream. That's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so grateful for all of your support of all of the channels that we stream on every day. Before you go, please do me a huge favor, and if you haven't already, smash that follow or subscribe button wherever you guys are watching, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Rumble, on Locals, on Getter, or on Instagram. We are back for the stream, hopefully, if the internet's not out, tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, and we can't wait to see you guys there. Bye.